So that is unbelievably disappointing. Unbelievably disappointing. And I'm way more...
I didn't realize...
That is unbelievable. That he's pretending, that I was comparing Stop Cop City protesters to Donald Trump and some fun. What I'm showing
the
you
DA is
that exactly. So what they're doing, the game now is like they did with Lula, they're doing it right here. Whoever the establishment feels a threat from, they gotta criminalize them. And as soon as Cornel West becomes a threat, they'll criminalize him. They just did it to the same grand jury that indicted Donald Trump. You're not supposed to prosecute if Dick Cheney and George, do you think that they're prosecuting? Oh, I can't believe he got away with me not asking them this question. Do you think they're prosecuting Donald Trump because he broke the law while George Bush and Dick Cheney walk the earth? Do you know no one gives a shit about the rule of law in the government and the establishment, and that this couldn't be more obvious. He's pretending to not understand the point I'm making. He tried to twist it, and I don't know what the hell he gets out of it, but it's a loser.
Well,
and I would have loved to give him all this advice in private, but his campaign doesn't want anything to do with us. So I had to do it in public, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to bring him on and have him talk about all the good things about his campaign, but they only gave us a few minutes, and so I had to get right to trying to help him get an actual message. That's a unbelievably losing message. I read to him from one of Bernie's top campaign managers. And so he is coming from a black radical activist, which white supremacy and all that stuff sounds great. But when you're running for president, you have to... Do you think Christian Smalls went to Staten Island and asked those Trump voters, hey, let's join together against white supremacy? Or do you think that he asked them, hey, let's join together along class lines to economically oppose Jeff Bezos and the oligarchy? It's not how... He's not an organizer. He doesn't know how to organize. The people around him don't know how to organize. They have a horrible message. And I'm really urging him to rejigger his message because that message is a loser. Do you want to say something, Kurt?
Well, one, I can't believe how well Marianne Williamson did now, looking back.
That was this is unbelievable.
But also, once you're sending billions of dollars to literal Nazis to fight a war,
literal Nazis. Joe Biden is giving billions of dollars to literal Nazis.
You really should shut the fuck up about white supremacy.
White supremacy.
They just paid your bill. Meanwhile, natives are losing their land in Hawaii.
Right.
They get $700, and there's billions for real Nazis.
Real Nazis.
By the way, Trump also did that First Step Act. I watch a lot of ex-prisoner YouTubes. They all start a YouTube channel when they come out.
They just can't stop.
Guess what? They love him for that.
I know. So, by the way, Joe Biden's support with blacks went from 90% to 60%. Donald Trump's went up to 20%. 2 out of 10 African Americans support Donald Trump.
There's that many white supremacist black people?
Those white supremacist black people. It's just he doesn't want to learn. He doesn't want to get better.
Who are these white supremacists? So I'm curious who they are specifically, because I think he wasn't understanding the point that you're a bunch of people.
It's not a serious. It doesn't seem serious, and I want it to be. Believe me, nobody wants to see a more serious campaign from Cornel West and the third party than Jimmy Dore. Nobody does. But that's not serious, because you can see that what's happening in Cop City, and you still pretend you don't see the game. I don't know what you get out of that.
Look, if the fight is between neo-fascism and Biden, the guy with just dimensions of fascism, but not
dimensions of fascism.
I don't know how many equals of full fascism, but if that's that bad of a thing, like maybe you should drop out of the race now, because the whole point of pulling votes away from Joe Biden is to make him do do something. But Trump could win, the ultimate neo-fascist.
So if Trump's a neo-fascist, why are you running? Why wouldn't you be supporting Joe Biden again like you did in 2020? So, it's an incoherent, it's a completely incoherent campaign message. Completely. Half the time he sounds like he's campaigning for Joe Biden. And more, I would say 3/4 of the time, and when we talked, he sounded like he was campaigning for Joe Biden and the Democrats, because he talks just like a Democrat. And he sounds like a Democrat who's just against the Ukraine war. And he's got to get much better if the third party is going to make a dent. He's got to get much better. And I really urge people who have his ear, because obviously I don't, and he doesn't even care. about. It's just unbelievable. It's so disappointing. And again, I want to tip of the hat that he's doing this, that he's running, right? He's got balls, and he's got a spine, and he's got integrity, and he's got courage, and he's walked the walk his whole life. So 100% props to Cornel West. And that's why I'm so invested in him. If he was some charlatan trying to sell books, I wouldn't give a shit. But he's not. He's a real deal. And so...
Well, he doesn't have all the data, and also doesn't want it.
He doesn't have... That's right. He just seems incurious about the damage that lockdowns did. Look what the damage that lockdowns did to black businesses. Where is it? Oh no, it's over here.
So he didn't get the point.
So here's the no. He pretended to not get the point.
They said it was so painful.
And then he said that this wasn't the biggest. 41% of black-owned businesses collapsed during COVID. So that's not a big. It's not a big deal. They fired 70,000 workers in one state. That's not a big deal. Oh my God, we lost freedom of speech. We had forced medical treatments. What the fuck?
But Jimmy, someone took a shit in Pelosi's desk.
But somebody took a shit.
That's the difference.
That's the big difference. He doesn't seem interested in finding out what actually happened on January 6th, that it was an FBI psyop, and that they'll do the same thing to Bernie Sanders. They'll do the same thing to him.
You know, all the
he does not see the game.
All the white supremacists, by the way, the Tiki Torch white supremacists that supposedly like Trump, they all dropped Trump and said, "Oh no, I like." They've all dropped Trump a long time ago. I know, because CNN will interview them. That's why you have to know who Richard Spencer is, because he's a CNN contributor. They were mad Trump didn't do enough to build the wall. And
this isn't fascism. Joe Biden's administration wanting to censor people.
It's a dimension of it.
It's a dimension. So when he crushed the union strike, which set the template for unions across the country that you can't strike, it would have changed the whole tone. That's not, of course, that's fat, but he's campaigning for fucking Joe Biden. 3 out of 4 sentences that come out of his mouth.
Look, a guy with Viking horns almost conquered America that dark day.
Yeah, I know. A bunch of guys in buffalo helmets and pajama bottoms stealing a podium or somehow trying to overthrow the government. A bunch of Second Amendment gun nuts showed up at the Capitol. They forgot their guns when they were overthrowing the government.
Jimmy,
that is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever...
We wouldn't have gotten it back if they had...
We wouldn't have gotten it back.
if that Viking head guy had really dug in, that goodbye country... Oh, by the way, the peaceful but fiery demonstrations that happened, the people that burned down police stations got less time in prison than the black guy. Right. The black guy from the Proud Boys who wasn't even there got 22 years.
So he's missing the game. He's missing the bigger game, and the big game is that the establishment now criminalizes anybody who is a threat, and that's all that is. And so you don't. Oh my God!
Well, he better remember that Biden's less of a fascist line when they come for him, and say it to them over and over again.
Yeah, I know. So it's that old saying: when they came for the Jews, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Jew. When they came for the trade unionists, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a trade unionist. And when they came for the gypsies, I didn't say anything because I wasn't. When they came for me, there was nobody left to say anything. And that's the story I'm trying to impress upon him. And he doesn't just want anything to do with it. And he wants to keep talking about white supremacy and LGBTQ and that's what the Democrats do.
Wait, are you?
That's the Democrats' only message is LGBTQ, trans, and white supremacy. That's their only message, and he can't stop repeating it and propping it up. His message should be Christian Small's message on Staten Island. That should be the message.
And what is?
And the way you organize is you don't go down to the union shop and you don't go, "Hey, who here's for LGBTQ's rights? Oh, you're in. You're not. You're out. Hey, who here's a white supremacist? You're out. Who here's a Proud Boy? You're out. Who here's a gun nut? You're out. Okay, who's left? Now let's organize." That's not how it works.
I don't think he's looked into any of those topics too far, because it just sounds
we even get to the WEF, the digital currency, the way they shut down the protests. COVID was the definition of fascism and authoritarianism, and it rolls right off him like water off a duck's ass. They fired 70,000 workers in one state. 41% of black businesses collapsed. Water off a duck's ass.
I think, brother,
Trump is a bigger problem, which is Joe Biden's message.
Brother,
that's Joe Biden's message. Joe Biden can take this interview and use it as a campaign commercial.
I think Brother Fauci's a good man, and people can disagree on locking you down and ruining your business and making you wear a mask for no reason. Can't we?
God damn it. I'm invested in his campaign. And it's just disappointing unless he does a big, guys like Chomsky and people I usually relied on, they fell down on their face during COVID. Way worse. They became the fascists. Chomsky said that the people who wouldn't take this vaccine, which as we all know, was not what they said it was.
I mean, it was
and
great.
That they lied.
It was a great vaccine.
I wanted to ask him, hey, which lie about COVID got you the most? He's not pissed off about anything. He's not pissed off about the lockdowns, the 41, nothing about that. Nothing. Wow. Okay.
I guess it didn't affect him too hard.
I guess it didn't affect him too hard. I wanted to ask, hey, when did you stop taking your boosters? Because I know you did. So, again, we didn't get, of course, they kept the time short because they don't want to answer these questions. By the way, I wanted to show him this. In 1976, the swine flu vaccine, 1 in 100,000 vaccines, there was a serious event, 1 in 100,000. They withdrew the vaccine.
Yeah.
In 1999, the rotavirus vaccine, 1 in 2 serious events per 10,000, they withdrew the vaccine. 1 serious event per 800 vaccines for the COVID, and it's still being promoted. 1 out of 800.
Emergency. It was an emergency.
But I don't think he knows any of this, and they're incurious. They don't care. They don't have a fire in the belly to prosecute the people who lied to us and committed crimes again and are still doing it.
Well, first we have to defeat Trump by any means necessary. Then we can worry about particulars like human experimentation.
That's
in
exactly
World War III.
That's exactly what Joe Biden's campaign says. That's exactly what they say.
The idea that class is somehow not much bigger than any of those identity things is one of the dumbest. I mean, that's actually the only thing that shocked me about it was that where you're not aware that that's bigger than any of it, because right now the people that you call brother in the media, they're calling black and brown people white supremacists with some regularity.
Right. They did it to Larry Elder. They're doing it to Cornel West.
They did it to,
and he keeps repeating white supremacy, and he doesn't understand that he's contributing to his own demise. He's going to be hoisted on his old petard.
Look, at least define what in the hell it is. So, because much like the terms vaccine and woman, I don't know what it means now. Maybe define them. You should ask him what a woman is.
So I want to make one point about when he talks about Trump and January 6th and Trump trying to overthrow an election or not have that transfer of power.
Yeah.
If Trump tried to use the military to stop the transfer of power, if Trump tried to use the military to stop the transfer of power, then Cornel West would have a case, and so would the Democrats. He's making the Democrats' case for them.
He did something worse. On lawyers' advice, told Mike Pence to look into it.
Yes. But Trump didn't use the military. What Trump did was he tried to pressure Pence and others in a sloppy scheme. He may have been nutty, but he wasn't fascist. That's not what Democrats weaponized the intel agencies with Russiagate to undermine the elected president. That was a lot more serious effort and a lot more consequential. Would Cornel call them a fascist? The answer is no. He would say there's elements. So the Democratic Party joining with the intelligence community to undermine the president, that's not fascism. Again, and then he would, very insulting, no problem. If that's all they got is to call me a right winger. That's all they got.
It's almost like
they're calling you a right winger, right? That same bullshit that you're trying to throw at me, they're throwing at you, and you don't know how to get out of this box you've painted yourself into, and there's no getting out of it.
So his campaign
is calling him a Russian asset. It's unbelievable.
The people he would spend more time talking to, right? Like your Anderson Coopers and such.
Till if he starts to poll. If he starts to poll, and I hope he does, wait till the Joyanne Reeds start to go against him, and the Al Sharptons, because they will be called out.
I bet you he won't have as much pushback with Joanne Reed. I bet you he won't. No, Joanne, I bet he won't. He won't take any offense to it. Being called a Russian spy and a white supremacist.
Hey, so come see us live on tour. We're going to be in Detroit, that's Rochester, Michigan, Tampa, Boca Raton, Orlando, Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, where I went to college, Indianapolis, Levittown, New York, and Red Bank, New Jersey. Go to jimmydore.com for a list of all those shows.